All right.
And I'm going mute.
Okay. So Brandon, thank you very much for joining us. Brandon Seltenrich, Vice President, Privacy Technology over at ViacomCBS. So as we think about connected devices, we think about all the myriad things that consumers and we as consumers interact with every day, whether it's a refrigerator, a toaster, et cetera. And some of those are kind of still out there examples. But you all are in the privileged position of having one of the more traditional examples, one of the things that all of us have cherished for many, many decades as the TV on the wall. And so as you approached bringing this new service to the market, Paramount Plus, tell us, what were some of the considerations you had to think about as you brought this forward?
A lot of the focus has been on how do you identify, how do you segment your users, as it really comes to moving away from our phones and our computers, very individual devices, onto shared devices. It's really about how do you know your audience, ? And for us running the privacy team, it's working with my business and my marketing and sales partners. How can we do this in a privacy-friendly way that offers transparency to our users and that offers the choices and the value that our business and our partners need to add? So it's a very different question from a digital perspective than we've had in years prior, because a lot of it still isn't solved. If you are on that large TV as opposed to your computer, do we know who in the household's actually watching? Are we doing the right targeting for the value add? Do we really understand our users so that we can offer you those customized choices that you're actually looking for in our products?
That's a great answer, Brandon. And I think it gives a lot of folks in the audience an opportunity to think about some of the inherent challenges that this new technology brings to the table, even as brand advertisers and agencies, and many are here, look to companies like yours to find those audiences where relevance is really high. So help me maybe think through a little bit, when you and I have talked about this in the past, when you think about kind of that continuity of service, I like that term you've used in the past, across the platform. So it's not just the TV on the wall. How do you think about that? How does your team think about that?
Continuity of service, continuity of the value and the choices is a business criticality. The key being for the business, again, from a privacy perspective, it's important that I help my business partners do things the right way, no matter where they are in the world. But from a business perspective, I'm seeing oftentimes the conversations nowadays about privacy everywhere, privacy not being a silo on its own, privacy being a part of my user preferences and my setup, and even my initial choices upon install, is something that business users are seeing as a real value add. Let's talk about brand reputation. Let's talk about creating that trust as data stewards with our users, because more and more our users recognize and expect that. So what can I do to make that front and center? We're a trusted content service provider. We're a trusted business data steward. Oftentimes, historically, those have been very different conversations. As each quarter steps on from where we started in roughly mid-2018, those conversations are more and more the same. And a lot of the times it's starting with our sales partners, our marketing partners, and business leadership.
It's taking me a minute to come back to you just because I mute to make sure that there's no extraneous noise. But okay. That's actually terrific, the way you frame that up, that it's making that education available to the consumer everywhere she is. It's not just in one place. It's kind of surrounding her a little bit. When you think about that, and you think about industry standards or even corporate standards, how do you work to implement those things inside a a world that you're really defining for the first time here. Do you think about it that way?
Absolutely. And you answered your own question, defining for the first time. There's an incredible misconception. The law exists, therefore, the mature piece of technology must exist to support it. I've said this again, I'll be saying this for another 3 years. I know it. We're really, as an industry, on the cutting edge of not only understanding what the heck does the law actually mean for all of our products, but how can I implement a solution in a standardized, scalable, intuitive way for our users, whether it's an audio device, a visual device, that refrigerator you referenced when you opened. And the short answer is we're working on it. Web and mobile, very mature technologies, very mature privacy and marketing solutions. Those solutions oftentimes aren't in the new areas that we're going into, connected TVs, OTT, et cetera, or they're still really disparate. And it's a struggle for us to say, I want to respect your rights. I want to give you the same value add that I'm providing on one platform that I provide on another. And as an industry, we're really working and have to continue working together to find that standard for our users and ultimately ourselves so that we can transact and we aren't on these islands. There's such a danger of a balkanization of our privacy standards, whether it's different regulations or different technologies. That's really why I like how the DAA brings us together. And I love participating to say, I hear you, but let's look at kind of the larger holistic use case of our ecosystem and let's move forward on something that works for everybody.
That's a terrific perspective and really up levels the conversation a little bit, because I think for all of us, we have day-to-day jobs to do and we have a quarter to meet or we have a year to meet or we have whatever our goals are. And so we do lose track that we are inside this kind of interwoven ecosystem where brands, agencies, and a lot of intermediaries are working together to try and get effective and efficient solutions. Hopefully, we're delivering that with some of the value that you're describing, and that's got to be kind of front and center. When you all presumably you all have talked to some consumers about the service that you all bring, what has stuck out for you in terms of the value that they see in it and how they trust you and the brands who use it?
And again, very much putting the blinders on from a privacy perspective here. It's the transparency. Thank you for providing the meaningful choice. Thank you for the education, the small snippets that you provide to help me as a consumer understand what I'm really doing. Because everybody knows there's a transaction on the internet. We get a product, we think it's free. People increasingly realize it's not free. Great, I understand that. But help me really understand it. And that's where our disclosures are so important, because it's not just legalese, it's about educating our consumers and making them understand, yes, this is valuable for me and I do agree to it and I do want to participate in this transaction. And ultimately, that's really where the whole industry needs to go. It's about educating the next generation of users so they truly understand the transaction that's taking place, and then they'll truly understand the value we provide as content providers to them.
That's a great framing, and I think we'll probably need to end on that. But it's terrific to catch up with you and talk about these kinds of high level things that day in day out sometimes we forget, but are critical to the future of enterprises like yours, but also to the industry writ large. So thank you for all the work you and your team continue to do to push us forward on these things.